Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting edition of Sports Insider. I am Dan Lobby, joined by Bud Shaw.
Maybe we should let them be the judge of that.
Yeah, well, I don't think we want to do that. We got a packed show for you today, kind of. We're going to talk Cavs and Indians. Chris Haynes will join us, and then we'll talk to Paul Hoynes about the Indians after that. But let's get right to it. We're bringing in our Cavaliers beat reporter, Chris Haynes. How are you today, Chris? All right, well, the Cavaliers, look, they don't have a lot that they can do, but the move they did make recently is acquiring Mike Dunleavy in order to help Chicago bring in Dwayne Wade. Chris, I think that's kind of a sneaky good move for this team.
Yeah, I mean, they gave away essentially nothing and came away with a player who could shoot the ball. That's about it. I'm not, it's Mike Dunleavy. He's 36 years old. He's past his prime. I'm not trying to spill on the deal, but, the Cavaliers didn't give up much to get him. So in that regard, I think it was a pretty solid move for them. I'm just not sure how much he has left in the tank.
Chris, where do you think negotiations with J.R. Smith are heading? Is it going to be a protracted situation again like Tristan's was, or could it wrap up soon?
No, I don't think it'll be like that. He'll be back. He'll be back with the Cavs. I think J.R. Smith's camp wants those numbers to kind of sink in with the Cavs. I mean numbers. I mean what Courtney Lee got, what Evan Turner got in Portland, Kent Bazemore. Want that just kind of settle in a little bit. But there's no doubt that JR will be back. I don't think it'll be prolonged. I would expect something in the next couple of weeks. I know people still will consider that to be elongated. But when you think about the Tristan thing from last summer, hey, this will be a swift deal. So I think something will get done relatively soon.
Chris, how long do you think JR is going to look for? Like how many years?
I think 3 years. I think 3 years is what he's trying to get at. And you look at the fit and what he did for this team, and there's probably no better fit out there right now for JR and his skill set than the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then you look at LeBron James, how LeBron is fighting behind the scenes to make sure this deal gets done. I think 3 years is in order, especially off the season he had, becoming a two-way player. But I can definitely see the Cavaliers' reluctancy in offering up that third year. Even Dwayne Wade couldn't even get a third year. So we'll see. But I think overall, I think it'll probably get to a 3-year deal with probably the player option in the final year.
Was Richard Jefferson's decision to come back, was that a change of mind, or did we read too much into his maybe emotions the night of the championship?
Well, I mean, it was still, I guess it was still a change of mind, a change of heart. He said that immediately after, winning the title. I wouldn't have blamed him. Who wouldn't want to go out with a bang like that? And obviously, Richard Jefferson had a solid season for him, and his play improved and got stronger during the postseason. So he definitely still has some game left. It was definitely a good move. But I look at the fact that he knew about this going in. Well, I mean, he was contemplating retirement, throughout the regular season. And I think, he even talked about how much the season was wearing on him, taking a toll on him, where he's at in his career, age-wise. And then I think when that championship came about, he was just so relieved. He was like, I can't go through it anymore. This is it. This is it. That worries me a little bit. You look at what Golden State Warriors are doing. They brought in KD, signed Zaja Pachulia, David West is going over there. And then you got the Cavaliers re-signing 36-year-old Richard Jefferson, bringing in 36-year-old Mike Dunleavy, and flirting with 41-year-old Ray Allen. I just wouldn't be thrilled about it. Solid moves. They're definitely not bust moves or bust additions, but I think they need to do a little bit more.
Chris, we've seen what Chicago has done in the last couple of days in adding Dwayne Wade. We saw what the Knicks did. Is there any team in the East that has improved its chances of challenging the Cavaliers?
Oh, I don't think any of those teams have improved to where they're a threat to the Cavs. Obviously, I think New York has improved the most with Derrick Rose over there, Courtney Lee, Joakim Noah. Definitely. Then Brandon Jennings, a solid backup point guard right now, if you get him to buy in. I think they're the closest. I like a little bit what Indiana has done, bringing over Jeff Teague and Thaddeus Young. They'll be improved. I don't get the fit in Chicago. I don't know where the spacing and three-point shooting is going to come in when you got two ball-dominant players and Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade who can't space the floor. Playing with Jimmy Butler, I don't like the fit. It'll be interesting, but I just don't know. So with all that being said, no. I still think if the Cavs come back whole, bring the team back together, I still think they're the highly favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference.
Obviously, the biggest move of all was Kevin Durant going to the Warriors, and everybody's kind of looking ahead now to a possible Cavs-Warriors rematch. And what impact? Well, not what impact does it have, but can the Cavaliers beat the Warriors with Kevin Durant, Chris?
Well, you always got a shot as long as you got the help from LeBron James on the roster. But obviously, come on, I mean, Kevin Durant definitely improved their ball club. I don't think they're going to go on and break the record, the regular season record they had last season, because I think they need time to gel, time to figure things out. But all those kinks and wrinkles will be figured out, by the time it's finals. I think San Antonio is kind of stuck in the shell. I don't think they're going to get any better. I don't really see a team in the West that has gotten better. I really think that the Warriors are just head and heels above everybody else in the Western Conference right now with the addition of Durant. So with that being said, yes, I do think Cleveland will always have a shot as long as they're healthy, whole, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, and playing on top of their game. But, man, come on. Man, that's a scary roster over there in Golden State, man. It's going to be very hard. I'll just say this. When the Golden State Warriors in Game 7 went scoreless in the last 4 minutes, they lack a go-to player. And I know that sounds crazy when they have Stephen Curry, but you guys see how Stephen was struggling. That won't happen with Kevin Durant in there. So it's going to be, if it is a Cavs, we thought that this past final was going to break all type of TV records. If we get those two again, it'll top this year. I'll almost guarantee that.
All right, Chris Haynes, our Cavaliers beat reporter. Thanks for the time, Chris.
Anytime, guys. Take care.
He's probably right about those NBA Finals TV ratings, but one thing that's bad for the NBA is it's July, and I mean, in my mind, the NBA season doesn't really start until next June.
I know. Yeah. It's I think it's always been the case that we tend to forget that it used to be the Boston Celtics and the Lakers.
Yeah.
But certainly there were other teams that were considered viable threats, like the Sixers were to the Celtics back in the day in the East. Right now, it's so hard to imagine anybody. I'd like to ask people, what's harder to imagine, the Cavs not getting to the finals or the Warriors not getting to the finals? And I think it's probably a coin flip.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and shift gears and talk about the Cleveland Indians. We bring in our Indians beat reporter, Paul Hoynes. Hoynesy, how are you?
Hi, guys.
All right, Hoynesy, the Indians finally lost to the Tigers yesterday, but they're now 11-1 against Detroit. They've got Justin Verlander tweeting about not being able to beat the Indians. They've got the Yankees coming this weekend. But, Hoynesy, I just wonder, over the last few years, did you ever think you'd see a season where the Indians dominated the Tigers like they have this year?
Never. I never did, just simply because of Cabrera. I mean, Cabrera's had like an MVP season in his career against the Indians. It's almost like if you look at his Triple Crown season and you look at his career stats against the Indians, they're almost the same. So, they've done the impossible this year. They've kind of defanged Miggy, and I think they've just it's just one of those years. It's like when they beat the White. I think they went 17-2 against the White Sox about 3 years ago, and in 2013. It reminds me of one of those seasons.
Paul, if you had to prioritize Indians' needs at this point, with both Almonte and Brantley, back in the mix, would it be left-handed reliever ahead of hitter, or the other way around?
Yeah, I think Bud. I think they definitely need some help in the bullpen. I think a left-handed reliever is probably the guy, and it would be great if they could get one more, legitimate, back of the bullpen guy. I don't know who it is, but a guy that could, set up or even, kind of maybe close when Allen is down, and step in for Shaw when he's down or he's struggling. And, I'm talking about a legitimate guy, like a Chapman, somebody like that. I think that's what they probably need.
Hoynes, I'm looking at the Central standings. Speaking of the Tigers and the Indians, are 6.5 up on them. The White Sox are 7.5 back. They've fallen off since that start. The Royals have been dealing with injuries. They're 8 back. Who is the biggest threat in the Central to the Indians?
That's a great question. I think, the White Sox have won 3, maybe 4 or 5 of their last series, so they're starting to come on a little bit. I would think, they're still a ways back. The Indians have, they're kind of, they're playing them even. I think they still have a winning record against them, but they played them pretty well. But I would think right now, the White Sox are probably their biggest threat.
Paul, do you see these guys going to get a hitter at this point?
I do, Bud. I think they're going to get a hitter. I know you probably got Brantley coming back. You've got Almonte. You've got to work into the mix now, like you were saying. But if you look at what Kansas City did last year, they went out and got Zobrist and Cueto. They weren't messing around. They felt this was their time, and with this pitching, I think they've got to go for it. They've got to take full advantage of this opportunity, and the way to do that is to go out, get a hitter, get a reliever, and win the division. Don't mess around with the wild card, because if you mess with the wild card, if you fall off and you're battling for the wild card, you don't get to use the best part of your team, which is the starting rotation. It comes down to a one or go home game.
Well, Paul, to follow up on that, knowing how this front office works and the fact that they like to get, when they make deals, they like to get guys they can control for a year or two. Who are the most likely candidates for hitter if they do go that route? I think there's people out there. Jay Bruce has a club option with Cincinnati. He can swing the bat, but defensively, some scouts have said that he's kind of challenged. I don't know if that fits into the plan. And that's probably the only guy I've really kind of focused on. But if they need a hitter, they could find a hitter, I think. But a guy like Carlos Beltran, is going to be a free agent at the end of this season. They've shown some interest in him 2 or 3 years ago, but the cost, I don't know what that would cost them, to rent a player, so rent a guy, and I think they are, they're not very, very high on doing that. So I think if they could get a hitter, that they could control, like you were saying, I think that's probably the course they'll go.
Hoynesy, this offense has obviously been a pleasant surprise so far. And when you look at kind of two guys, Mike Napoli and Carlos Santana, that have provided much of the power, which do you think has been more important to this team? Mike Napoli's addition, or the fact that Carlos Santana has kind of rediscovered that power that he had a couple seasons ago?
Well, I think right now probably, Dan, I would think Napoli has given them a presence in the middle of the lineup, and it's kind of like when Travis Hafner was here, and even Travis Hafner at the tail end of his career when he was hurt, and he really had fallen off statistically. People still respected him. You saw him getting intentionally walked in critical situations, and that always surprised me because you could pitch to him at that point in his career. I think Napoli is that kind of guy that has just solidified that middle of the order as he's given them a threat, a right-handed hitting threat that they haven't had. Santana, he was in that position last year, and obviously it didn't work. I think this is taking some of the pressure off Santana. You can hit him fifth or sixth. You can hit him, he hits either fifth or leadoff. He's already got 19 home runs, as many as he hit all last year. So I think Napoli, if you had to put them head-to-head, is probably has had more of an impact on this team and more of an impact on Santana as well.
Paul, we all know how mental this game is. Where should Yan Gomes spend the All-Star break? In a batting cage or on a psychiatrist's couch?
I think he should go back to Brazil on the beach somewhere and just sit there for 4 days and kind of turn his head off. He looks he just looks completely lost at the plate. But you've seen him. I feel bad for him. I mean, I don't know. Thankfully he's still doing a good job behind the plate, controlling the running game, and the way this offense has gone, I think they can carry him. But he's so much. He can do so much more. It seems to me. We saw 2 years ago what he can mean to this offense, and I get, you start hearing people, they should go out and get another catcher, McCann or LaCroix or somebody like that. But, they're committed to Jan. They signed him to a 6-year deal with 2 club options. I mean, he's here. And, you've got Roberto Perez coming back pretty soon, and that's going to be an interesting, situation with 3 catchers. And, what do you do with Jimenez, who's played really well, So, but I just, the key, I think one of the big things in the second half will be trying to get Gomes going. And I just think he needs to go somewhere and relax for the break, because you can see the smoke coming out of his ears right now.
Paul, do you remember how mad Sandy Alomar Jr. used to get at us when we would talk about his slumping offense?
Oh, God, yeah. he would, and then throwing out runners. It's a pitcher's got to hold them.
I mean, his point was that catchers do a lot more than just hit.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's a lot bigger game. Is Gomes carrying his weight because he is good with pitchers? Yeah,
I think he's doing that. You see, I think Francona has used Jimenez a little more than I expected. He's Bauer's personal guy, and you've seen him catch a couple of the other starters now. But I think Gomes is so good, especially with a guy like Kluber. He's really, he works well with the pitching staff. I don't think that part of his game has suffered. The thing, and like Sandy said, the subtle part of the game, the pitch framing, he's very, very good at that. He gets these guys a lot of borderline strikes just by the way he frames the pitch and catches the ball and kind of moves it subtly back over the plate. He's really, really good at that.
Hoynes, if Yan Gomes goes back to a beach on Brazil, are you planning to document his journey?
Hoynes, stay off those beaches in Brazil.
Yeah, they don't need to see me down there.
There's a lot of strange things washing up on the shore these days.
I might get harpooned down there or something.
That's our Needs Beat reporter, Paul Hoynes. Hoynesy, thanks for the time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Paul.
It's all you, bud.
All right, well, the Cavs have acquired Mike Dunleavy, who is 36 and a year ago was limited to 30-some games because of back surgery. If relatively healthy, Dunleavy can help, and he's a good three-point shooter and obviously brings some length to the perimeter. But that's where the Cavs are these days, looking to improve in small, inexpensive ways. If you expected more, you are this reader, who says Dunleavy moves about as fast as the Mona Lisa with the rocking chair in motion. To which I say, back off, buddy. Bad analogies are my department. Or you are this reader, who says a picture showing Dunleavy trailing LeBron is somehow worrisome because it came even before back surgery. Well, listen, I'm pretty sure 99% of the league's players have found themselves trailing LeBron by a step over the years, and the other 1% was either 3 steps behind or glued to the bench. The Cavs, like most NBA champs, are salary cap strapped. Dwayne Wade, no matter what you want to believe, was never going to walk through the door or limp through either. The good news is that as currently constructed, the Cavs are heavy favorites to go back to the NBA Finals. Are they good enough to beat the Warriors? Who knows? Our final commenter says Golden State shouldn't be a concern right now, and I couldn't agree more. There's nothing the Cavs can do to counter the Kevin Durant move until next June. And if the Warriors feel especially confident these days, well, we've seen that from them in recent months. How'd that work out? Dan?
All right. That'll do it for Sports Insider. Thanks to Paul Hoynes and Chris Haynes for joining us. Thanks to Bud Shaw for, again, filling in for Chris Fito, who I'm not even sure.
It's a big
I don't
job.
even know if he's a real person
Huge job.
anymore. All right. I'm Dan Lobby. Thanks for watching.